Happy Wednesday. It is, September 5th, 2018. Welcome back to The Breakdown. Today we have Ryan Mundy joining us. Ryan is a former NFL player turned entrepreneur.
Yep.
Played for the Steelers, the Giants, and
Bears.
the Bears. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about Ryan's journey from the NFL to entrepreneurship. And right now he's in the middle of a Kickstarter campaign, so we're going to check in on how that Kickstarter is going and hear about a couple other projects he's working on. But first, I want to ask, how are the Bears going to be this year?
They had a really good past week with the acquisition of Mac, and I was already bullish on the Bear defense. That's a nice play on words, but I thought they were already going to be pretty strong. But when you have the opportunity to add a guy who's a former defensive MVP and top tier at his position, not only at his position, probably just defense in general. I think that was a very solid move, and there's been questions around whether that was too much to give up for a guy like that.
Yeah.
That's a TBD, but you got to take that shot.
Yeah.
And I think the Bears will be significantly improved. They won't give up a lot of points, but the key is scoring points.
Yeah,
and there's still some question marks around that. But I think they'll be able to run the ball, and if they could strategically make some good first downs and third down conversions, they got a good shot at winning.
Cool. I'm going to hold you to that. I know that whatever. So a couple of years ago, you and I got to talking because you were curious about how we do some things with transition here at Bunker Labs.
Yep.
And the similarities between transitioning out of the NFL, like the parallels between that and transitioning out of the military, and they're close.
Mm-hmm.
You spend a couple of years doing one thing and doing it really, really well,
mm-hmm.
and then moving into something that not many people understand. The military population is a larger population than the NFL. 1% of Americans.
By
a lot. Yeah.
So
we got to talking through that, and you had interest at the time in entrepreneurship, and I guess to take it back a notch, while you were playing football, did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Did you know you wanted to work for yourself? Did you go to school during the NFL? Or graduate school, I guess, is obviously college, and then.
Yeah, it's so just really briefly touching on those parallels. Athletes, just like servicemen and women, spend a lot of time developing their physical and mental to get them to perform at the highest level day in and day out. And to your point, that's something that not a lot of folks can relate to and understand. So I was really intrigued to come here and just figure out what the transition process looked like and what you guys were offering, because I knew those parallels existed,
right.
And there was no reason why guys from the NFL or servicemen and women shouldn't start to cross-pollinate and have some shared experiences about, hey, I'm transitioning from something that I committed my life to, and I performed at a very high level, and now I'm not necessarily able to do that on a day-to-day basis. So What does that look like for me? So I thought, you guys are doing a great job with that, and it's something that hopefully, we can mirror and mimic with the transitioning athletes, not only from the NFL, but just from sports in general.
Sure.
I had no idea I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't see, being in it, and I recently just made a post about it. My Instagram is being in something so intimately, playing football, you don't really have an opportunity to smell the roses or to appreciate what you're doing, or to even think about what you would want to do afterwards.
Sure.
So I didn't necessarily have a strong plan of what I wanted to do when I retired from the NFL. But I knew two things. One, I knew I was self-identifying as more than a football player, so I wasn't tying my whole self-worth into being an athlete.
Right.
And then two, although I played 8 years in the NFL and I made a nice piece of change, I didn't make enough money to not do anything for the rest of my life.
Sure.
And I didn't want to fall into that category, so I needed to figure something out. So I started taking advantage of executive education opportunities that were provided by the NFL at Wharton, Notre Dame, and that program was actually on entrepreneurship. But at the time, I wasn't able to generate ideas or wasn't able to look at the world with a certain point of view. And then it ultimately culminated with me the following year starting an MBA coursework at the University of Miami, Florida in 2015. And then that following season, I had back surgery. So I didn't play that year in 2015. And that was when the paradigm started shifting. I really had to start putting things into motion and think about what life looked like after football. And so, the way things work out, when you're active, things just start to come together. So I had already started that process to prepare. And then, so I finished up my business degree in the summer of 2016. And, it was like, all right, I don't want to play football anymore. But still had no idea what I wanted to do, but knew I was curious enough to go out and explore the world, and that's what I did.
Right, and I think that's, so what, the parallels I'm taking away from that, and in this context, is you had an idea that there's a life after football, there's for servicemen and women, there's a life after service, and I think that what's cool is you were I'm in this situation right now, I'm playing professional football, pretty cool, and but like you said, it's not all you are. You have so much more to give beyond that.
Sure.
So you started focusing on that and preparing yourself for that transition before it was too late, basically. So I think that's something I'm sure that you share with other players, current and past, and I think it's just really cool. I think that's a really common story.
It is, and the key is, I think, for athletes, servicemen and women, again, to start thinking about, okay, what am I physically doing? Got it. But then start to tap into that mental state and say, well, what is driving me, or what is allowing me to do what I'm doing, to put my life on the line, or to run into somebody at full speed? Because that's not something that, the common person would want to do. Right. They wouldn't want to subject themselves to physical and mental duress. So you have to figure out what type of characteristics allow me to do that. That's grit, that's determination, that's focus, that's discipline, that's leadership. All these wonderful adjectives that describe you at your core.
Sure.
So now you just strip away the act of running into somebody or being in combat or what have you, but you're still that same person. Right. You still have those same qualities and characteristics. Now just reapply them in a new setting, and you will be light years ahead of, not competition or people in the workplace, whatever it is. But just being able to reapply those intrinsic values, I think, is a game changer.
Yeah, that was really well said. So it's now you're running full speed into
spreadsheets.
Business. Yeah, spreadsheets. Yeah.
I'm tackling Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that, and emails.
So speaking of which, what are you working on now?
So when I retired from the NFL, I got really curious about venture capital, and specifically early stage venture capital, and started to just drum up and talk to folks and learn about what that looked like, and ultimately culminated with me starting an investment management company, Tech Lead Ventures, where I invest in sports, health and leisure, and digital media opportunities, tech and non-tech related. And even within the tech sector, I know quite a bit about crypto, tokenization, and blockchain. So that's been a great process, and it's just me doing that. I'm a mercenary angel investor, and I invest off my own personal balance sheet.
Where are you learning about? How did you learn about this stuff? Or
Google.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did a lot of Googling, reading books, podcasts, YouTube. YouTube is probably my best mentor. I'm a self-starter. And I think, again, when you strip away the physical act, but start to transition those physical, intrinsic characteristics, that can definitely reapply somewhere else. Being a self-starter. And I think both athletes and servicemen and women are most certainly self-starters. So.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So you're doing that, and then I'm gonna bring it up. Kickstarter.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of it right now. Literally in the
I'm
middle
in the middle of it. So.
What's the product? What was the goal?
Yeah.
Where are you at?
So I started a metal straw company called Swzle, and Swzle is we empower consumers on an individual level with a sustainable solution to reduce their plastic consumption.
Sure.
What does that mean? There's a big movement against plastic straws going on in this country right now. Organizations like Starbucks, Disney, McDonald's is on the horizon, restaurant groups, hospitality groups, etc. They're all moving away from plastic straws because they pollute our ocean and environment. Every day, 500 million straws go into landfills or the ocean, and ultimately videos go viral from straws getting stuck in turtles' nose and birds exploding because they have so much plastic in them. So it's a very big problem that we have on our hands. And with that, problems need solutions. And so when you think about what is the alternative from plastic straws, you could either go paper or metal. Inherently, paper straws have a big time quality issue. They'll break down in your drink. They don't hit your palate well. So me and my business partner, we thought metal straws would be a great solution and value add to a lot of folks. And right now, to your point, we're running a Kickstarter campaign. We just launched a week ago. And we've already reached our goal of $12,500, but we're trying to blow that out the water. And what we're offering is a consumer pack that has 2 straws and a brush. And the cool thing about it is this pack fits in your bag. You could get it from point A to point B, and you could have your own personal straw.
What's that cost?
$20 on the Kickstarter. We had some early backer specials where you could get 2 for $30. If you go to Swzle.com and sign up on our email list, we are going to release some more specials next week to try to finish our campaign strong.
So what are you doing like now? So you're obviously here, it's like 5 o'clock. What are you doing like all day today? Like, so you're in the middle of this campaign. What are you doing to like fuel the fire, kind of keep that thing bringing money?
Interviews.
Yeah.
I had 2 interviews yesterday. I was on WGN Morning News, and then I did the Rokon radio show in the evening. But yeah, stuff like this, doing a lot of press, working with our service providers to make sure that our content, our messaging, and our campaign managers are doing their job, continuing to reach out to my network and drum up interest and ask them to post on social. So it's pretty busy right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
You have 2 weeks left.
Right? Yeah, 2 weeks.
That's awesome. What was it like? So, actually, I want to say, like, I was really impressed with when I saw the Kickstarter come out. I was like, didn't Starbucks? This article came out like a month ago that Starbucks was trying to get rid of all straws or all plastic by like 2022 or something, or all straws by 2020. And then, like a month later, I see like you're launching. I'm like, great timing on that.
Yeah, that's a part of life timing.
Yeah. Well, what steps, what preparation you take leading up to the launch? Well, we talked about this for those who watched the breakdown last week. We talked about crowdfunding and how it's like really important to generate lists. Yeah. To find your like the people who are like guaranteed to give you money. Like, it's like your best friends. It's like you're gonna give me $30. You're gonna give me $40.
Right.
What sorts of stuff were you doing like a month ago to prepare for this launch?
Yeah. So that's a good question because maybe about 6 weeks ago, this business didn't even exist. But it was something that my business partner and I, we had multiple conversations about, drew up some sketches, but never actually pulled the trigger until we started to see some dominoes fall. And once we ultimately pulled the trigger, the first thing we did was go get our trademark, licensing, LLC, all that good stuff. Yeah. And then really started to curate lists, to your point of saying like, okay, well, here's my email contact list, and here's your email contact list. And then think about what the messaging looks like for those lists, because you need somebody to manage that campaign. Sure. We have a 22-day campaign, so we needed somebody to actively manage that campaign for us. So the biggest thing, I think, is just identifying what you need done and then finding the best possible people at your price point to get them done. Right. So, because
I saw it. I mean, your campaign has a good video.
Yeah. So like,
good, yeah.
I'm not a video guy, but we went out and got a video guy. I didn't design the case. I could tell our designer what the case should look like,
Right.
but he has to go and do that.
Yeah.
I didn't design our page, but they send it to me, and I say, well, I would like to see this here and that here. So making sure that you have those type of efficiencies in place so that you can just focus on the overall macro vision,
Right.
because there's so much that goes into crowdfunding. It's a lot, so you definitely want to be as efficient as possible.
Sure. And then I guess, man, we could talk for a while about this. What else is interesting? You said you were dabbling from crypto.
Yeah, I do. I spend a lot of time in crypto, actually. I've been in it for about a year and was exclusively focused on it for about 6 months, heading into February 2018. So I know what the technology is. I know what a good investment looks like in that space. And most recently, literally yesterday, I just wrapped up an online course for some, I guess, credentials in saying, like, I know what I know. But I took an online course at Oxford. Yeah. So I locked that up and really started to think about what the business use cases are for blockchain, and I'm still very excited about those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because the market has been bearish for quite some time, I think it's a good opportunity for a lot of folks to take a step back and take a sober view to it.
Sure.
Because everybody was very excited about, Bitcoin, it's always going to go up.
December was wild.
Yeah, it was a great time, right?
Yeah. Great.
If you did it right, you could have made a nice piece of change.
Yeah.
But when that scale tipped, it shook a lot of people out.
Sure.
And I think that was necessary for us to hit the reset and say, all right, let's take a step back and really think about what this technology is, and not solely approach it from a speculative type of standpoint, but really make sure that we're building products, goods, services that are applicable, because a lot of entrepreneurs saw it as a good fundraising mechanism, and saying that, and it's a fantastic fundraising mechanism because it's neither debt nor equity. So you're just issuing a token and saying, I think it's going to be worth $1, and you don't give up anything for your business or take on any risk.
You can't talk too deep about crypto because Facebook doesn't allow conversations about cryptocurrency.
Come on, Zuck.
You can't promote it. I know.
Come on, Zuck.
we had one of our member companies here, Charlie Uchil. He runs a company called Cool Melon. They are a Canada-based cryptocurrency. Okay. And they wouldn't let us. They took it off Facebook a couple weeks ago. So just wanted to throw that out there. Don't talk about crypto on your Facebook live streams.
Don't do it.
I don't really know here's my last question is, what advice would you give to a current serviceman or servicewoman or professional athlete right now that's maybe a year away from, or like contemplating like the end of their career, or a year away from transitioning out? What advice would you give to a younger you? I mean, I think you did it pretty well actually, but what advice would you give looking back?
That's a good question. I would say really build relationships and open yourself up to new opportunities.
Great answer.
I think that being in the service or being on a team, you can ultimately end up around the same type of people. Yeah. And you're not really diversifying your experiences or your relationships. Mm-hmm. And I think that is it could be a big miss if you don't do that, because people want to hear your story. Mm-hmm. They want to understand what sets you apart, because they already respect and appreciate what you do, and they want some sort of connection point to you, and to understand and just to hear your story. Like, hey, what's it like? Tell me what it's like. Yeah. And through that, you'll start to learn and meet folks and see different ideas and businesses, but always be mindful that you could spend 20 minutes talking about the Super Bowl or 20 minutes talking about your tour of duty and walk away from that conversation and not extract anything. Sure. So always be mindful about, okay, I'm talking to this person, but ultimately I'd like to learn more about what they do. Mm-hmm. And that's a skill that I think is developed over time. Yeah. But it's critically important because folks would love to just talk to me about what's Jay Cutler like, or what's Antonio Brown like?
Right.
And I can do that, sure, but there needs to be some tip in the scale where we start to talk about things that you do so that I can learn more about you, which ultimately helps me be a better me.
Right. Cool. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's all good.
2 weeks left on your Kickstarter. I'm hoping for the best.
Swzle.com.
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 Love it. Ryan, thank you so much for coming in.
No problem. Thanks, Will.
Take care. Over and out, Kai.
And